I have the Twitch open, so I can give it all a refresh to make sure it works.
There you go.
We don't have to deal with the audio nonsense from last time.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to, incidentally, Alma's streaming series. I am Joshua Timberman, and I am joined by my co-host Pete Cheslock, and our special guest today is Scott Hain. Hi, Scott.
Hi,
Would
Joshua.
you please introduce yourself to our viewers?
Sure. I'm Scott Hain. I use he, him pronouns. I am an engineering manager at HashiCorp. I like most cheeses, especially if they have Jack in the name. I enjoy cats, which you probably could guess.
From the cat ears?
I didn't even notice.
I want to come back to the cheese thing though too.
Yeah, true.
We're not going to leave. We're going to come back. We're going to put a little pit of the cheese. We're going to come back to the cheese.
That works for me. I have severe anxiety and other wonderful neurodiverse tendencies, and I love managing people. Even though I was a coder for many years and got pretty good at that.
Yeah. So how did you become such a coder?
I started off working, well, when I was a wee child. I mean, it does kind of go to that because I had an Olivetti 8086 when I was about 7 years old, which was running PC DOS. That was pretty awesome. It was a clone of the IBM clone. And learning just how to use that and then go to like an Apple II. Like I just got into computers. I had an acoustic coupler 300 baud modem. It was delightful.
Do you have it in the background there?
I do not. Actually, that is one of the things that I wish that I had. I do have my tangentially, I have my my indie in that box. SGI. Woohoo. But over the course of time, I was just kind of tinkered with computers, was really into it. Got a degree in CS that was did not in any way prepare me for actual a job, sadly. And I know there's a lot of talk about that, but we won't get into that at this point in time. But from there, like I kind of was in a rough spot, to be honest. Like I worked at a retail store. There was no jobs around. This was right after the tech bubble dropped, and things were not great in terms of actually finding jobs because there's a lot of unemployed software engineers. And so I ended up working for a restaurant point of sale system that was 5 people. And I was the coder. I was also the support tech. Which means that I was working on Windows NT, Visual Basic 6, and this was the application. It was really great. I also had if any of y'all have watched the Cry Party on the stream from Hangoffs and whatnot, my rotation at that job was. What was it? It was 10 or 8 to 2 p.m. The next day it was 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. back and forth. And then Saturdays and Sundays it was 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. So a lot of fun there. I think I drank quite a bit at that point in time.
I think that's the only solution of that.
I can't recommend. I mean, I can't recommend that as a coping mechanism.
No,
speaking for myself, that was where I was at. But,
right. Yeah.
It's all about that second shift support person. It's very funny because when I got into tech and right as the bubble was bursting wide open, I found a place at an internet service provider where I was like installing antennas on roofs because it was like wireless internet. And like that was the job. It was like, yeah, you're gonna climb. I was like, oh, I'm gonna do computer stuff, right? And they're like, yeah, you're gonna plug in this network connection after you climb up on the 3rd story roof and put the antenna up there. And I was like, wait, what? And I ended up moving into like the phone support, which I thought was an upgrade, but 2 to 10 p.m. phone support for an internet service provider. That will also drive you towards poor decisions later on because
Absolutely.
no one gets home from work at 5 o'clock with their not working internet and calls you to say good things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. It's, oh man, you know, everybody has not everybody, but there's so many folks who have worked in the industry I know have just those stories. You know, it's just that common bonding experience of, man, that sucked. We've all been there.
Yep.
But
shared trauma.
Shared trauma.
Amazing bonding. It's why the people that you have worked with at that one startup, you will know for the rest of your life.
Exactly. Yeah, but to continue, make a long story short, I worked at a large enterprise that was soul crushing, and literally like actual soul crushing for about 7 years, until one day I came home and my partner was like, so who pissed you off and who'd you have to yell at today? And I was like, this is not a greeting I should be getting when I get home from work.
Right.
Yeah. And then I ended up working at a startup chef, coincidentally, for another number of years. And, from there, some other places, and now I'm where I'm at. And I did a whole bunch of really weird stuff along the way. Am I allowed to say shit?
Yeah, you can say shit.
Okay. Yeah. A whole bunch of weird shit along the way.
What are the rules? What are the rules on Twitch?
I don't know.
We're fine.
I'm not.
I marked it as not for kids.
Oh, there you go. Perfect. Yeah, because kids should not.
No, kids would be bored by this anyway. We're not playing video games.
Yeah, video games.
I mean, I can get another window open and play something. I don't know.
Some Fallout.
Yeah, Fallout or.
Yeah. So what was one of the interesting job roles you had between where you are now and the soul crushing enterprise place that you you were reinvigorated and you liked tech again?
Oh, that's a good question. One of the things that I really enjoyed, and I still enjoy, is kind of tinkering. I love learning new things, especially when it's stuff that I have no clue about. The number of VMs that I've spun up by hand on different operating systems, in VirtualBox or what have you, is probably more than most people have. Let's just put it that way, because that exploration and that like excitement of like what makes this different, that always like got me. So when I first started at Chef, the first day I was like, well, I worked on Solaris 10 at my old job. That was the main thing at that enterprise. Solaris 10, zones, Java stack, global company having to do rolling deploys with a COBOL layer underneath it, and a custom language that was actually a custom interpreted language that would go from COBOL to Java, which
wasn't that PeopleSoft?
No, but there was a lot of Lotus Notes involved as well, which
probably.
Yeah. No, that I'm not joking. There was.
I'm sure. Yeah, I worked at IBM. I know how much Lotus Notes gets involved in things.
Absolutely.
It just finds its way into everything.
I mean, it's the OG like distributed database for your document. It's like document store database, right? Your files for your emails.
I thought that was DNS.
It's great.
Yeah, I made the mistake on one of my first days at that enterprise of saying that I had worked on Microsoft Access databases at a previous job, and they were like, "Oh, cool! You are now the owner of this Lotus Notes front end ODBC connection to a Microsoft Access database that." Trying to figure out how much I can actually say about this, but let's just say that it.
You've said quite a bit already.
Yeah,
I'm frightened by this.
Yeah, let's just say that there was over $1 million of revenue and things that actually this was a key component in. Let's just leave it at that.
My goodness.
Yeah, scary. Yet another one of those, if people actually knew how the internet worked, they would run screaming.
Well, nobody knows how the internet works, right? That's why
Corey Quinn
BGP and DNS are the source of all outages, because like they run they're the foundational part of the internet and nobody knows how it works.
I think Corey does. He just doesn't like actually let on, you know.
Could be. So you mentioned zones on Solaris.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Is that anything like Docker? Like
yeah.
How do you do zones on Solaris for a distributed system?
You basically just use the create zone command and give it some parameters. They're not in YAML like a Helm chart, for example. They're in XML, which is, I don't think it's better.
It's type safe.
Yeah. Yeah, and well, it's not just that. Yeah, it's funny because like I love my Kubernetes folks and everything like that, but looking at some of the like how there are shared resources underneath it when you're running multiple containers, how you can not shell out to disk, but like use the Docker socket if you're using Docker as your base and everything like that's extremely similar to some of the shared components in zones, and it's a little bit frightening to see that all of the zones map their different processes to the overarching global zone processes, and you can break stuff just by looking at it if you're not careful. Yes. How do you do zones on Solaris? Carefully. It's true. It's true.
It's true.
The only thing that's better, that's actually coded better, I think, than zones is AIX WPARS, which like they're solid.
It's kind of designed for it though, and like
from
IBM
the ground up.
Mainframes did the virtualization stuff like in the way back times.
Yeah. But to go back to your original question and original story, one of the first days at Chef, I was like, I worked on Solaris 10. And immediately one of our dear friends was like, oh, cool. Hands me a disc of the Solaris 10 DVDs, Solaris 9 DVDs, and the AIX operating system DVDs, and was like, cool, you now own this in our data center. Enjoy. Thanks, Lamont. And I was like, I've never used AIX, but this sounds like an awesome challenge. I love learning new things, and yeah.
So what kind of things were you doing on AIX at Chef?
Well, the main thing is I ported Ruby and Perl to AIX and Native Compilation.
So what did you use as the compiler? Not GCC then?
No. The XLC, IBM's native XLC compiler, which is like GCC until suddenly it's not, and that gets very interesting very quickly. I think I may have been the first person to compile Ruby on AIX native with the native compiler, but I don't know. It doesn't really matter, to be honest, but it took a while. Like, I was learning a lot. I had done a whole bunch of like assembly and C programming in college and stuff like that, so I was really, really rusty because it'd been a long time. And a lot of it was just digging into the code for all of the dependencies that you have when you're compiling Ruby, because there is a crap load of libraries in there, like curses and things that you would never really think about, all the way from like zip upwards, and just going through each part of that tool chain and dependency graph, and a lot of them being open source projects that had been around for a while, like they just worked on AIX because it was sort of for lack of a better term, the graybeards had gone and done that work back in the day, but some of the stuff that was newer, like Ruby 2.0, when that came out, it's like a whole different ball game. Nobody runs Ruby on AIX, but eventually got it all to work, and that led to the Chef client on AIX that was stable and didn't core dump about 30% of the time that it ran. Let's just say that the GCC-based symbol tables don't line up the same way that the XLC-based symbol tables do.
My goodness. So were you able to get Nokogiri compiled on AIX?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
Well, I mean, we're talking about XML already. So.
Yes.
Well, so explain to me this, because you will probably have this answer, right? Like that gem is included with a lot of things. Can you give the simpletons answer for why is that, and why is it normally such a pain? Like, why is Nokogiri, obviously, like, it has to be like natively compiled, but why is it included, and why does it have to be compiled natively?
To be honest, I don't know the answer to one of those questions. What I do know is that it is in many dependency trees, because it is it basically it's everything XML. And in order to get things to connect to other things, most things actually need an XML parser inside them.
Wow.
It also does. I'm spacing on this. If you'd asked me 2 years ago, I would have been like this. But it's on. When you're making object graphs, like put that together with something like a Brook shelf or a Gecko or something like that, and you end up needing that kind of functionality. Why the native compilation? That I don't honestly know.
That's why. So that was for speed. Nokogiri
was that what it was?
Yeah, Nokogiri was written in C because it was much faster. And even though the XML library in Ruby, I believe, was also written in C because it's compiled into the standard library, I believe that that Nokogiri was faster than XML, and that's why everybody uses Nokogiri instead of the XML library that's native to Ruby.
Yeah,
or is in the standard library.
That makes sense. And I did Ruby 1.8 actually have an XML library?
I believe so.
Did it? Okay.
But I believe that was an era when it was still inefficient. And given that everything needs an XML parser, as we've established, especially if you wanted to, apparently manage your Solaris zones with Ruby, right? But you'd end up needing that Nokogiri library for speed in application use.
Yeah. No, see, I learned something today.
That exhausts my memory of that particular tangent, though, because
that's awesome, though. I mean, it's one of those things like, you've probably, we all have, right? Hours of our lives. Probably that equals into days if you really do the math on it, like waiting for Nokogiri to compile. But it's like, it never really stopped to ask the question of like, why does this have to compile versus the speed thing? Actually does make a lot of sense, because if you are tying a lot of things together, and Scott, to your point, you tie them together with XML, then the speed of parsing that is probably a very important aspect. I feel like we mostly get to blame AWS, because isn't there like like their error reporting, like some sort of, like there's something to XML, I feel like, in the AWS APIs
I'm sure it's somewhere. I know that like pretty much everything that came out of Oracle, and a lot of Java, stack like is all very much XML based.
Mhm.
Because yeah, you've got I was going to say I could name you 3 different XML schema parsers, but I can't because I haven't done Java in like 10 years, so I've forgotten all of them. Thank God.
Yeah, seriously. A funny thing that I discovered when compiling Nokogiri on machines and it not compiling because of build errors of various sorts, that at one point, I don't know if it's still true, but at one point Nokogiri had an embedded build system in order to compile its own vendored libxml and libxslt.
Yeah, yeah. If I recall correctly, I had to patch that out of it,
On
because
AIX.
yeah, on AIX, or it may have been on Solaris actually, because I want to say that the implementation on Solaris didn't actually function the right way, on Solaris 10, because of the way that Solaris does stuff.
Amazing.
Yeah, there's an entire blur of time where like we were trying to figure out how we could get the client, the chef client, actually like functional, reliable, and in CI, so that it wasn't a one-off build all the time. Because when I got there, it was a one-off build because there wasn't enough, like it just would fail. The builds would fail very frequently, and it was kind of random because of those compilation issues. And yeah, symbol tables.
Simple tables, yes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So what is the most esoteric platform you've built software on? Is it AIX or is there something else?
Probably no. Actually, no. That would be S390X.
S390X, which
Yeah,
is something about a mainframe.
it's an IBM mainframe. Yeah. And I didn't actually. This was not. This was not for a job. This was just for fun.
God, that's incredible.
Wow.
I had
Scott.
access to it, so I'm like, let's see what we can do.
Nice. So is S390X is that, are the binaries built on that compatible back to older mainframe hardware?
I don't have any older mainframe
Yeah,
hardware,
I mean,
so
I
I
don't
don't
either.
know. It might. I mean, it's in the same family as like, and I could be totally wrong about this, but I believe that it's in the same family as like the AS4000s, um, or AS400s, or both.
AS400s, RS6000s.
Thank you. Yes,
Yes,
yes, yeah,
I keep that kind of useless knowledge in my head.
yeah, yeah. I want to say they're the same, but I would, or I'm sorry, not the same, but that they're backwards compatible with that. But I could be very, very wrong. And there are people on Twitter's, that I know that would be able to tell you that
Got it.
immediately.
Oh, for sure. Well, and also, you probably made it run on rainbows.
Yeah. I well, I got it to run on a IBM Power 8 machine, which had a one dead processor. So that was cool. I'm sorry, not dead, defective. So we had sort of non-deterministic results when compiling software and running software and
That's
running the
amazing.
operating system that it was running, which was great. That was cool.
Wow, that's amazing.
Oh, and then the other one is I did get to let's see, make it compile with one of my coworkers. Not, I can't take all the credit for this, but compiling on a custom Wind River, like Yocto based Linux distribution on a Cisco switch that never was released. That was cool. Also, an Arch 64 thing for a specific company that I can't name, that was on literally a prototype rack. It had no name, and somehow both of the Ethernet ports had the same MAC address.
You know, I love when that happens. I love hardware vendors. Like there was a place I was at. We ordered 200 servers from them. That's a lot. It was a lot of servers, a lot of money. And they sent them to us and we built software so that as they got powered on, they would reach out and we would bootstrap them. And we were like, what are we going to use for the unique ID? It's like, well, hell, MAC address is pretty unique in the network space. And we'll see that when these suckers boot up. And I still remember to this day, someone turned on those server, got the power on, remote power, whatever. And it's like, we only see one server in like the Pixie logs or whatever in our little system we did. It's like, what's going on? I don't understand. And it's like a guy in the data center is like, I'm looking at them. They're all turned on, right? And exactly, they had burned in one MAC address for all of these systems. They had to fly a tech out and fix it.
Yeah, so the thing that was the weirdest about this, and that I didn't figure out this problem at all. This was one of my coworkers, and she did a ton of like deep network figuring things out. The way that it actually manifested for us was she would SSH into the machine, and then it would actually authenticate to one of them or the other one, and then she would log in again or SSH into one. And so she could end up having one connection that was SSHing into both machines and then executing on one of them randomly, whatever she was typing. And then it would occasionally drop and she would be connected to the other one with the sessions. I didn't think that was possible. I still don't know if that's possible, but I saw it with my own eyes. So yeah, mad props to her for figuring that out, because that was just mind-boggling. It's like, I'm not that good at networks, but like I know that there are some things that are just not true. Like, this is a fundamental thing.
Oh no, we lost him. We
lost Scott.
We lost Scott. I
What
bet. See? I bet Scott had an internet. Oh, he's back.
Sorry.
That was auspicious.
Oh yeah,
is that what that was?
Networking. Yeah, I did that on purpose.
Oh, okay.
No. So I have my mouse here, and I have the two buttons on the side. The classic MX18, best mouse in the world.
Hell yeah, it is.
So I have forward and back mapped to these buttons, so that I can navigate very quickly in browsers.
Yes.
Unfortunately, since this is a browser-based thing, I missed and I hit the back button. So yeah, I'm good at computers.
Yes. Indeed.
We all are.
So speaking of computers and being good at them, how did you go from? So my understanding is you're managing a team at Hashi, right?
This is true.
And so how did you go from all this like gnarly, deep level build and software engineering into managing a team?
That is an interesting and sort of sad story. It's very good though.
Okay.
So I left Chef at the end of 2019, roughly, if I recall correctly, and then I went and worked at a different place. Beginning of the pandemic, before it was very clear that there was a pandemic going on, and I worked there for about 6 months, and during that 6-month period, from like December to May of 2020, or December 2019 to 2020 May, I had a lot of like things happen. I got really sick for like 6 weeks. I had a severe upper respiratory infection, they called it, which, whatever, think about that what you will. And I had my best friend passed away of cancer in April. I was getting burned out completely from the job that I had at that point in time, because it was not what I expected, and it wasn't the best environment for me. It just didn't really work out, and so by the time May like rolled around, I had pretty much gone in full burnout and just been like, I was like, I can't, like, I just can't function. And in a thing that risk averse me is very uncharacteristic, I literally quit my job with nothing lined up. One of the things that happened in May, though, is I had sort of one of those moments of self-reflection, I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it, where it's like, I don't really know what I'm doing, and I don't know what I want to be doing, and I know it's not this. It's sort of that mortality moment that I thank my friend for, because she kind of triggered in a way triggered this thought process in me, and essentially it turned out that I was like, deep down inside, what do I actually want to do? Let's just go for three things. Like, what made me happy when I was doing them? Like, what are these specific actions? And kind of really just thought about it a lot, and that turned into working on really low level, kernel, weird, wonky C porting, etc. stuff. Managing people who were really awesome. And then I don't even remember what the third one was, to be honest. And then I was like, okay, cool. We have this list. How do we get somebody to pay me to do these things, or one of these things? And so I started throwing out resumes a little bit, and job stuff. And I interviewed at a couple of places, and none of it really worked out. And that led to kind of that just terrific burnout. And then through some serendipity, I managed to get this gig where I was able to build up a team and work with some great people. And a year and change later, here I am.
Nice, right on. So, what is one of the things you like most about managing people?
People problems are hard.
Yes.
Like, people problems are hard. And that's not to say that tech problems aren't hard. And like coding problems aren't hard. They are. It's just not something that I got, that I would engage with anymore. It didn't bring me joy. It was just like, okay, cool. I've solved a lot of very difficult problems. What problems are there to solve next? And nothing spoke to me in terms of software. And I know this is coming from a place of great privilege. So at that point, I was like, okay, let's broaden our horizons and look into this. And when I actually started, I was actually operating as both manager and as an individual contributor. So writing code, bootstrapping a team, being a hiring manager, doing all of the things that are necessary for that. And then eventually, let's just make this official. And I took the hat and put it on and changed the title, which
Nice.
I'd been doing on and off. Like, honestly, when I was at Chef, I had a couple people that sort of reported to me, kind of from a technical level. At that enterprise, I had a couple people that reported to me, even though I was not officially a manager, because shit was weird there in terms of titles. Go enterprise, and yeah, like that's. I think that's that. That was a long and rambling words to, I think, answer your question. I'm really good at that.
Yeah. Yeah. Get me going, and I'll ramble too long about nothing. So how do you? So you've built up an awesome team, as you said.
I think so.
You like managing awesome people. How do you find these awesome people, and what's your approach to interviewing them to ensure that the ones you're interviewing are going to be excellent?
So, yeah, there's a couple pieces of that. Let's take that apart a little bit.
Yeah.
Because there's the hiring part, there's the team building part, and then there's sort of the thing in the middle that you didn't say explicitly, but is kind of almost the most important thing, which is what is your team supposed to be doing and how are you bringing value to the business, right? That vision and that mission statement or whatever you want to call that thing, the charter, that, this is what the team is providing to the company. That's one of the first things that I tried to put together with like my boss is like, what are we actually trying to do? Where are we going with this? What is our purview to a certain degree? And like there were some fuzzy edges due to the way that my team works. So there's some fuzzy edges that I won't get into. And then once we sort of had that, I was like, okay, so those heist movies, right? Like the Ocean's 11. It's like, well, you need the safecracker person, you need the acrobatic person, you need the explosives person, you need the guns person, or whatever. You need all of those things. I put the skill sets together. What skill sets do I need to solve the problems that this team needs to solve? And in this case, it was like, I need folks who understand infrastructure and cloud infrastructure specifically, how to deal with that, how to make it, how to have vision in that area. Coding, do a lot of Golang. I need people who understand and are very good at Golang. Okay. I need people who are good at communication. I need people who do this. And the key there is that it's an overlap. It doesn't have to be, I need somebody who is good at infrastructure, good at Golang, good at this, good at this, good at this, because then you end up in the impossible, I'm trying to find a unicorn type of things. So spreading that out and kind of mapping like, what hires do I need for these job recs to get this team bootstrapped so we can kind of hit the ground running. And then creating some kind of rubric so that we can fairly and objectively actually interview folks and I hate to say judge people, but like evaluate folks based on the same principles and the same kind of questions, so that it's not like so and so had an interview with person A and then person B had an interview and they asked totally different questions and they're going to have completely different answers, and it's extremely subjective and a really horrible experience for everyone involved. Not to mention, I think it's illegal, probably, or should be. I don't know. I have opinions about hiring, but keep it as objective as possible within the skill sets that you need. And bringing people in to create that strong team. So yeah, that was one part of it. The vision part.
Before we move on to the other part, we have a question.
Oh yeah, how do you compensate for bias in that process? That is a really good question. It's super hard. The rubric goes a long way to make sure that you are grading on the exact same scale for every person for every interview. So, did the person bring up this, and this specifically? What was their answer to this, and this? Weighting that and going through that is one thing to do in terms of my role as a hiring manager. I rely on my recruiters a lot to actually go and help remove the bias from my job recs. I can't remember what the service is called, but I run all my job recs through a service that checks out and looks for biased language. And I'm at 100% for my job rec right now. Yeah, Textio. Thank you, Heather. Yeah. Yeah, it's a great service. If your recruiters should check it out. And let's see what else is there. Yeah, having just I mentioned the rubric, mentioned the job rec. Understanding your own implicit bias, and just, not necessarily trying to act upon it, or compensate for it, just knowing that you have some of these biases, is really important as well. And there are lots and lots of resources that folks can look at, to see more about their own implicit biases and whatnot. So I won't go too far into that, because there are a lot of resources that are better than me trying to blabber about it. But yeah, it's really hard is the answer, when you get right down to it. And I'm doing the best that I can in terms of trying to make it an extremely equitable hiring process for my folks, that we're sourcing from diverse areas, that we are getting representation from folks, and not not relying on others to kind of be that thing where it's like, oh, so and so went to this school, and I know so and so who went to this school, so they're probably cool. That kind of it's not nepotism. It's the other one where it's like a bunch of white
Cronyism?
dudes. Yeah, cronyism. Thank you. Yeah, it's like, well, we're all a bunch of white dudes. We've worked together, Joshua and I. Yeah, I'll hire Joshua as, we we've worked together. And transitive bias, yes, that's also a thing. Yep.
Cool. So what is your approach for determining the effectiveness of your team? I mean, you already know they're all awesome, but
Yeah.
But do you measure them in terms of OKRs and KPIs, or do you do something else, or a mix of all of the above?
I'd be curious too if you've checked out any of the tools that are out there that are supposed to do some of this stuff. I haven't used any of them personally, but I hear of people using some of these kind of whatever engineering type tools to figure out how effective the team is or whatever.
I've had a lot of luck in my life, and I've had some very I've been very fortunate, very privileged to work with some really amazing people who have written books literally on this topic. And learning from them directly has been one thing. Putting those into practice, yes, we do have OKRs. Joshua's favorite. The key though for me is how are we going to measure this kind of thing? And I can't really go too far into it without going into a long screed about what my team actually does, which is not really super important at this point in time. But
they write the code that makes the internet work.
Pretty much, yeah. We're the best in the world at the best being the best. But for us, one of the downsides is all of our metrics are trailing indicators, because we do actually link all of our OKRs directly to business outcomes. And I think that's really kind of the key, is if you can actually connect your OKRs or your KPIs or the things that your team does directly to a business outcome, then that is good. That is what you should be doing. And that allows you to measure, are we doing this? How fast are we doing this? What can we do to make it go faster or, safer, or whatever the specifics of what is appropriate for your team.
And do we even need to be doing this fast?
Yeah, no, I've legit removed a KPI or OKR from our thing just a couple of weeks ago, because I was like, this doesn't actually mean anything.
I think that's where I think that's where a lot of these people, I know Joshua hates OKRs, because of course
hate's a strong word that I would use.
Well, I would say if they're used as tools to bludgeon you with, if they're not tied to business outcomes, if it's just here's an arbitrary thing that you need to do this arbitrary thing, right? That's just super demotivating. But if it's you know, the business outcome that will come from this, like, you know, this section of our infrastructure is not scaling well to meet the demand of renewals or whatever. And having that connection, I feel like that would even entice me more as a technical person to even care that, like,
oh yeah,
you know, this is the thing I'm doing, and this is how it affects the business, and, you know, how we can improve things.
Yeah, and to that point, exactly. Like, one of the things that I think, exactly, people want their work to be meaningful, and I think that this is a really, like, if you can't explain why your OKR is important to a C-level in like a minute
or 2 sentences,
or two, yeah, sure, like in easily, maybe you should look at that OKR again, and like just reset it up, because that's probably either more complicated than you need it to be, or doesn't quite align with that, you know, team vision to org results, or there's something just a little off there.
Yeah. So speaking of people we know who write books, Accelerate. Not that I was, you know, leading the witness or anything. I did actually have to reach over for it, but yeah.
Oh yeah, my copy's on the shelf back there.
Yeah, excellent. My shelf's right there. Also, where my find dog is.
Nice.
Always got to have a find dog, right?
Yeah, I don't actually have one, amazingly enough. Just I feel bad about it, but it, you know,
it's fine.
What can I do? I'm not a perfect human, Joshua. Why do you expect me to be perfect?
I don't expect you to be
good.
perfect. Indeed.
So what's your favorite type of cheese, Pete?
Yeah, Pete.
So, cheese.
I don't mean to. If you have more questions, Joshua, or had more things you wanted to talk about, nice. I didn't mean to derail into cheese land, but I am absolutely.
No. We can talk about cheese. I think this is the last 10 minutes or so of our time. So this is where we can talk about barbecue and cheese and heavy metal.
So cheese is, cheese is fantastic, in every possible way. And I during the pandemic started splurging for like little bits of joy on like very fancy cheeses that I used to be able to get very easily, and then it was just harder and harder to get, because the one grocery store that would have a great cheese selection was also like incredibly packed and very tight quarters, and I just never felt good going in there. I literally had to wait until I was like 2 weeks post double vax before I was even like, I can't even go in there before. It's just like, it scares the living bejesus out of me.
Oh yeah.
So I ordered from a place called Murray's Cheese, which is an online site, but it's a cheesemonger in New York area. There you go. Thank you. I had to put it down to save it later. Non-sponsor post. They're not sponsoring this at all. Other than like,
but they could. You go ahead and email community@alma.io and
trust me, if there was a way to like get some referral credits on Murray's Cheese from this, I would do it in a heartbeat. I would sell you all out for Murray's Cheese. So I did an order.
That's going on Twitter.
I would sell you all out for some Murray's Cheese. That's a good OH. So types of cheeses. They've got some really great cheeses there. They've got this like reserve cheddar that like won an award. They've got like a really good blue cheese that is like very just like, I have to use the word unctuous because I don't know what that word really means other than it just sounds like what it is. And when I eat this cheese, it's very that. Nice. And then one time I actually started getting into these like softer cheeses that were also pretty funky. And I like miscalculated cheese volume and weight measurements, and essentially like a wheel of this incredibly soft cheese, which I have to look up because I don't actually know how to pronounce or say any of the cheese names, showed up. And it was like a 1 pound like wheel of this stuff. Like you cut off the top and you're supposed to like dip bread in it, crackers.
Yeah.
And
that's the jam right there.
And actually, put a little jam on it too.
Yeah, put a little jam on your cheese.
That's good too.
Brie,
So,
but okay,
I ate a lot of that. So that's my cheese story.
Sorry, that's great. Yeah, but okay. Soapbox time. Brie, you get brie. Okay, brie is great. Warm it up, etc., etc. Why the hell do people always put, or does it come with, or whatever, apricot jam? It is the weakest of jams. This is a hill for me.
Okay, so
are you saying
I'm intrigued where you're going with this
not
one?
Your jam?
Yeah, I'm intrigued where you're going with this because I thought you were going to be like, why are you putting? I ordered a chocolate cake. Why did you put like a fruit sauce on it? Way of like, don't put the fruit sauce on it. Which I'm in that camp. But you're actually saying that like, why would you put apricot jam?
Yeah.
And there are a slew of other jams that are way superior. Okay.
Yeah, that's a thing. I mean, I there are definitely jams that I feel are less appropriate. I wouldn't necessarily put strawberry jam on there because it's like a flavor fight. Yes, I would pepper jelly and any kind of thing like that. 100%. Yeah.
But pepper jelly.
Yeah.
Pepper jelly. What is pepper jelly? Is that like?
Oh my God! Have you never had pepper jelly?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's oh my God. Okay.
I think I've had like a jalapeno jam on like a Red Robin burger or something like that at some point.
So
I would eat that too with the unlimited fries. Absolutely.
I'm gonna have to find this pepper jelly. Somebody drop a link in the chat.
You are definitely gonna have to check out pepper jelly.
Speaking of links in the chat,
jelly,
here you go.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know how to actually pronounce this, so I'm going to pronounce it wrong, but it's the Delice. I think that might be how you pronounce it, but Bourgognes, I think, is also how you pronounce that. I only know it from the wine because it's the only type of Burgundy that I can afford. It's the Bourgogne. It's the village wine for the non-wine nerds here.
Yeah. Yes. Pepper jelly. I'm just going to read from Wikipedia here real quick because this is important. It is a preserve made with peppers, salt, sugar, pectin, vinegar base, rose to popularity, blah, 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 blah. Can be described as a piquant mix of sweetness and heat used with meats and ingredients in various food preparations.
Piquant is a word that is really underrated and not as used. It's like, as you said that, I was like, wow, I'm going to have to bring that into my repertoire.
That and unctuous, like we've got all kinds of words that are coming into this stream.
If someone could put those two words into a sentence, would you say
that's literally
and unctuous? Because like having a sharp taste or appetizing flavor is piquant. I don't know how to spell unctuous. Oh, there we go. Aggressively or ingratingly flattering. Oily. Okay. That seems weird to me. Greasy or soapy feel. I don't know if so. Maybe I don't actually know if unctuous is. I want unctuous
soft
to mean
tofu, like silky tofu would be.
I want unctuous to mean different than it is. Like
maybe
apparently,
cheesecake.
aggressively.
Is cheesecake unctuous? That feels like it might be unctuous.
I just feel like when it's unctuous, I don't know. There's.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Indeed.
Fatty and oily is what I'm finding for unctuous. But piquant, is that how you pronounce it? Am I even pronouncing it right?
I think it's piquant. Yeah, I think you're right.
Piquant. That's how Google says. I don't.
Oh,
piquant.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. It's one of those words that I like. I don't know if I've ever actually heard it out loud, but I've read it a lot. You know.
Yeah.
My favorite one. My wife was like looked at me like was just out of my mind when I was talking about a grim fakeade.
Sure.
Which was she's like, a what? I'm like, a grim fakeade. You know, it's the thing. And she's like, do you mean a grim facade? I was like,
one of those words you read.
I think for a future stream or some sort of future event, I actually want to like come up with a list of words and but specifically tech commands that you would rarely speak and mostly type, and have folks We're gonna remember this one for later, Joshua. We're gonna start having people in the stream, and at the end, we're gonna put up the list, and we're gonna be like, say this word, and we're gonna pop up the word, and we're gonna hear everyone's pronunciation of these because I love it. Because there's no right answer to any of these.
Coop
Yeah,
cuddle.
but there's only one way to pipe grep, right?
Yes.
You can only pipe grep. You can't just grep.
That if by that you mean
I actually cat first. Like I cat to pipe grep because and I always get told like useless use of cat award by people I work with. And I'm like, you know what? Like I embrace it. That's me. I'm useless. That's me.
But the thing is that once you cat a file, and then you're like, oh, I just only want the lines that say this. Then you pipe it to grep. Like, why would you retype your command?
I mean,
why would I just grep a file?
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, like, why wouldn't you just use cut and cut and WC to get what you want? Like, why involve grep in this at all?
Just use Perl. That's what it was written for.
It's there. Grep
Joshua,
is there.
Stop. You compiled it for AIX. You've got it available on your system.
I don't have it. I deleted it from my Mac.
Delete Perl from your Mac?
I didn't actually. I don't know if you can.
You can't. No.
Probably not.
No. Things will literally stop working because
I know.
Without Perl, nothing will work.
Yes, because there's some part of the OS that is just deeply ingrained and intertwined with that.
Yeah. There's a Perl script somewhere that actually drives everything or is a dependency for everything else.
Yes.
Did you know that the VirtualBox extensions for Linux is actually it's not a binary like the other extensions that you would install on other things. It's actually a Perl script, like a huge Perl script. It's delightful. I found that out when it crashed a whole bunch, and I was like, how can I figure this out? And then I actually vimmed it, and I was like, oh my god.
Yep, it's a terrifying.
What is this monstrosity?
It's a terrifying pile of Perl.
Got it to work, but at what cost?
My favorite was always Webalizer. Remember that log analyzing tool? Like read in your Apache logs.
Oh god, yes. Oh no,
it was a single Perl binary.
Oh, I had forgotten that.
At one point, I don't know if they've refactored it. Like this is 15 years ago when I last looked at the source code of it. But yeah, it was at one point a single binary.
Yeah.
God, that's making me. Maybe it was Mesos that when you installed it, there was definitely something I remember installing that the bash script included the file encoded in it. Like base64 encoded in the bash script was some binary that you needed. And that could have been maybe a Docker container or something. I have this weird recollection of why am I again, whatever, sudo bashing something why is this 250 whatever? So I was like, let me download this and take a look. And it was 20 lines of bash and base64 encoded binary. I'm like, this feels bad. And then I ran it with sudo, of course, because I don't care.
Because you're not a monster.
Yeah.
What else?
Or maybe you are. Who knows?
Before I leave y'all. Thanks for having me on for one thing.
Yeah.
But also, if you want to talk about something fun, if you ever invite me back, talking about bootstrapping a Rust application that was compiled using Rust. Habitat. How do you make a Rust thing that literally starts with an operating system? How do you compile LFS, the LFS that you're LFSing?
Yes, totally.
It's fun.
Yeah.
We should get other Scott on this too if you want to talk about that because yeah, he's got scars as well. But
yeah, and maybe we can grab Fletcher and Adam.
Oh, good lord, that'd be a treat.
It would. All right. Well, it has been a treat. Thank you for joining us, Scott. Thank you for viewing, and for all those who watch this in the future. We try and stream every week on Thursdays, but not next week because next week it is Thanksgiving in the U.S. So enjoy your turkey if that's your jam, or enjoy your jam if
It's
you
not apricot.
like it. Yeah, if it's not apricot and you're having
Yeah.
cheese.
And
All
anything that I totally forgot or said incorrectly, it's been a while, and my brain doesn't work. So, you know,
all good.
correct me on Twitter. Go for it.
That's what Twitter's for. All right.
Exactly.
Thanks, friends.